Listen, I'm not trying to go fucking vegan here. I'm not trying to go paleo. I'm not, this isn't the Atkins diet. This is I'm going to walk 2 miles a day and eat a goddamn Reese's before I record a podcast diet. Say something.
The Perils of Self-Betterment.
Whoa! This is the Console Crusade podcast with your hosts, E.J. Olson and Nick Durheim.
Hey there.
That was so weird. I don't know. You're like doing like a goofy thing, but then it was kind of a Krusty the Clown thing. I don't know.
I mean, I had to do something because you're being all surly and manly for once.
They call me Sexy Jiggle.
You're stirring my loins.
My sweet, sweet dulcet tones. Do they get you randy?
Okay, that's enough of that.
All right. Console Crusade, we talk video games, video game news, the whole 9 yards, and officially Game of Thrones. Although this week, for those of you who have listened the last 2 weeks, we will save the Game of Thrones spoiler talk for the end of the episode. So we'll wrap up the video game news about half hour, 45 minutes in, and then we'll transition to 20 minutes of Game of Thrones. We're going to break down the new episode. We're going to bitch. We're going to moan. We're going to speculate. It's all happening. So prepare your bodies for that.
It's going to happen.
Is your body ready? Is your body Reggie?
My body is Reggie.
Old Reginator made a Twitter. Hightails it out of Nintendo, and suddenly he's good enough for the people now. Ooh, boy, what are you drinking?
You know I'm all about that Mure Pepino, the blackberry cucumber.
So no Safeway brand, no Winco brand, no bubbly.
No, I'm out of bubbly, out of the other stuff. Just got LaCroix in the fridge right now.
Okay, so before we jump to the Reggie Twitter thing, I need to know, now that you have sort of expanded the roster in your fridge, what is your favorite sparkling drink?
I don't know if I have a favorite. I don't know if I feel strongly enough about one particular flavor to be so bold as to call it my favorite. But I am very partial to the coconut LaCroix. That's like my standby. But the apple bubbly is also real nice.
Apple?
And there's also some other good choice ones. I think the strawberry bubbly is pretty good.
Okay, all right.
And I think there's another, my brother was telling me about another brand that has a toasted coconut, like sparkling water, that's like apparently a little bit sweeter than the standard coconut that you'd get from LaCroix. So I'm wondering, is it the same sort of blend? Do they add any like added sugar alcohols? Are they doing some like stevia kind of mixed in there?
Oh, boo!
Yeah, some fake nonsense, but I don't know. I wanted to check it out to see if I could noticeably tell, like, oh yeah, this is better, or this is like some weird knockoff offshoot I don't give a shit about.
Listen, this tastes like sunscreen, and I do not approve.
That's vivid.
Do people say that about coconut LaCroix? Right? It's really evocative of being 6 years old.
I mean, they can be wrong all they want, but I know what's real, and what's not.
So if you're a brand shill, you're gonna stick with the LaCroix boy crew over here.
I mean, it's just what's most available, so it's a lot easier to be kind of in that camp. You know, it's the safe bet, the safe choice.
I find that the LaCroix is the least chemically. You know, it doesn't taste artificial or processed in a way that some of the bubbly flavors can, or like definitely like at work they fucking cheaped out and they bought like Polar Ice or some shit. And it's fucking wretched. It's just, it tastes like all the LaCroix memes.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's also really bad LaCroix flavors, obviously. You're not going to be wanting berry. Berry is very bad. All the basic ones that they have in stock the most, they're in stock the most because they're for basic people who don't have real taste buds. And it's bad news. So you don't want the lime, you don't want the lemon, you don't want the berry.
No one wants seltzer. How many times am I going to bitch about seltzer flavor on this fucking podcast? Why do they make a seltzer flavor?
Well, I think it's just zero flavor. It's just bubble water.
Yeah,
which
no
is good.
shit.
I like bubbly water.
It's awful.
But I'm not going to pay for it.
Ugh.
Get a soda stream.
Dude, I got Sarah a soda stream for Christmas, and we've talked about this. It's great because I get an instant mixer if I decide to do a splash of soda in my whiskey.
Yeah.
Whiskey makes me Canadian, apparently.
Yeah, that's the truth theory.
I don't know what's going on. All right. Back it up. Twitter, Reggie, the originator's on Twitter. Couple notable things. I'm actually curious now that I'm thinking about it. How the fuck did he get at Reggie?
Dude, You don't think he's balling out of control? Get that big fucking COO money from Nintendo of America?
You think he bought it, or you think they've been camping on it in case they ever needed?
Is there a difference or when you're Reggie Fils-Aimé?
I guess not.
Bigfoot, big dick swinging in, he just fucking takes it.
So his Twitter bio, which I find interesting. So obviously Reggie's last day was
last Monday,
18th?
Tuesday, something. He had his last day on a Monday. I remember that. That was like the thing.
So his Twitter bio now says retired president, COO of Nintendo America, active business provocateur. What does that mean?
Means whatever you want to mean.
Apparently, provocateur. Strip down in your underwear and let me pitch you my business idea. This is Shark Tank, but naked Reggie. His body is ready. Yo, that's $1 million idea right there. Let's pitch that show to him in our underwear.
On Shark Tank.
On Shark Tank.
Oh, meta.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I really liked seeing that he's actually engaged. And obviously he's only been on the platform for a week or less than a week. But it was cool to see now that he's kind of stepped down from that role, that maybe he'll be a little more accessible to some fans. And it was cool seeing him follow a bunch of other quote unquote influencers and other content creators in the gaming sphere, some of which are like really small time.
Has he actually done that?
Oh, yeah.
When I checked his Twitter initially, he was following, I think, like 17 people. And it was all like Associated Press and like Washington Post, like the outlets. And the only quote unquote, I guess, influencer was Jeff Keighley. That was the only person he was following. So I don't know. I haven't checked it recently.
He's following some of the bigger guys. Like, you've got Chris Kohler on here, which is, he's obviously a big time games journalist.
I think he's like the head editor at Kotaku. He's probably following like Steven Totillo because they had like their yearly interview at Polygon.
Yep. Steven Totillo. And then some of the bigger people in the industry, obviously Kojima and whatever, but Peer Schneider. But he followed a couple of other guys that I follow, like Wood beat 'em ups. I don't know if I wonder if he just went on a follow streak, and he's following like Kelsey Lewin, who's really small time. She's from the Northwest,
like one up in Washington, right?
Yeah, she's one of the owners of Pink Gorilla Games, part of the Metal Jesus crew. Spawn Wave, Gerard the Completionist, like these guys that I've been watching for years and years, and that have idolized Reggie. And they all kind of were like, "Oh my God, Reggie's following me." That was fun to see.
He's probably got what's that? Pro Jared. He's probably following Pro Jared.
Dude, Pro Jared, they had a really funny and sort of cute back and forth together at conventions and at.
They had that video like right when the Switch was coming out, I think, where they would like ask each other a question about Nintendo stuff.
Right.
And like one of the questions Reggie asked him was like, "What's the worst Nintendo game?" He's like, "Oh no, that's a bad question."
What are you doing
to
this
Reggie?
To me? So some of the cool things that Reggie has tweeted out, and I want you to break me down on this, Nick, because I didn't even realize this, but he posted a couple of cute things. There's a notebook with him with a laser on his eyes, probably the
his giant
Reginator.
me head.
Right. And then there's a plastic ass he can kick. And a couple other things. Tell me about the picture, because I somehow didn't catch the part that you mentioned just a little bit ago.
Well, it's a piece of like artwork from some of the artists, I guess, from Retro Studios, who, of course, we know is working on Metroid Prime 4 and was rumored to be making that other game for the last few years. They also worked on the Donkey Kong Returns and Tropical Freeze games. And they sent him this artwork, and it's got, Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, Samus, a Metroid. And very conspicuously, there's like another little character obscured completely by a little Mario statue in front of the picture in a frame. And people are obviously immediately just zeroed in on that and are speculating, what the fuck is this? What's going on here? Is this from the game that Retro was reportedly like leaked last year that they're working on, the Star Fox racing game? Like, is this Rob 64? Is that the weird robot from Star Fox? Is this some new character? What's going on here? And also, like, you have the main characters of those franchises hanging out. Why would they have some robot from like an established franchise that is a extremely tertiary character, like a D rank character?
Right. I couldn't even name you 3 characters from Star Fox. I didn't.
It's not even a Slippy Toad. It's not a Falco Lombardi. It's not Peppy Hare. It's not Fox McCloud. It's not Wolf O'Donnell. It's not any of them.
Oh! They have last names.
They do. Pigma Dengar.
What?
I can't remember. Andrew McKinney, I think, is the monkey.
Andrew.
I can't remember Leon's last name. the great Leon. He's the chameleon.
Okay.
Part of the Starwolf crew. There's also General Pepper. Man, come on. Play a goddamn Star Fox.
What a hoot.
It's also Crystal, the sexy fox that made everyone a furry in like 2004 whenever that game came out.
Dude, I remember that. No, I don't actually. I didn't know what a furry was until probably I graduated high school.
It was too late.
We had bronies, but we didn't have furries in high school.
I've always felt like furries was before bronies in my discovery of the internet and
Sure, okay.
awful counterculture.
You were in the deep end, bro. You were on the dark side of the internet. I tried to keep it, Yeah. Another thing he tweeted out, someone made him a custom Satoru Iwata amiibo, which is adorable, and he put it next to his little Reggie amiibo. And it is, man. I know we've talked about Iwata on this podcast before, but the holy Nintendo Trinity had such a deep and profound impact on our childhood and our, especially, some of my fondest memories with you.
And how sad is it that their last E3 that they showed up together? I mean, Iwata wasn't even in the 2015 E3 showcase thing, like literally. They had the puppets. I think that was 2015 or that might have been 2014. I just remember it was the worst year for like what they showed because all the games ended up being really, really bad. But they had awesome moments. Like they had the literal like Muppet style puppets walking through the hallway, and it was Iwata getting Miyamoto and then getting Reggie, and Reggie's doing push-ups and he's counting Nintendo 62, Nintendo 63, Nintendo 64. And then he gets out of the room. He's like, my body is ready. They do all the bits.
Yeah.
But then they show Star Fox Zero, Animal Crossing, the party game. They showed some Skylander game. Like it was a wretched E3.
Yeah.
Terrible games. And it was like super long, bad pacing. But that was the last Iwata one, I think. And it's like, God damn it. The bits were good, but the games were bad.
This might be total hyperbole. This might be overboard, but like the thought that possibly the stress from the Wii U killed Iwata, and it because things were dire. Nintendo was bleeding money. Like they were cutting their own salaries to keep employees on. And it was like, is this the death of Nintendo? Like they have to sell their IP and work with other companies now. And it was like this really kind of a dark time for Nintendo, both financially and in pop culture. But the Switch completely redeemed themselves with the Switch. And it was like, in my eyes, there's like this validation. Obviously, the Wii U is not solely Iwata's idea. There's a whole team of engineers and people who are pitching these ideas. But this whole thing he believed in with the Wii U really came to fruition with the Switch and was executed the way that I think they initially, maybe not how they initially envisioned it, but the whole idea of taking your games with you, that's the Switch. And the Wii U hadn't failed the way it did, we wouldn't have the Switch we have now. And so it's a bummer to think about that. But
yeah, I'm hoping that we get some fun, like maybe we'll get like a post-mortem, some interviews. Maybe he'll open up a little bit about how that all went. I doubt he was going to be too forthcoming. He was always very good at deflecting questions while he was actively in the position, so I doubt there's going to be much pulling back of the curtain afterwards, but he seems like a very entertaining guy, and he's always been really fun in videos and stuff, so I think he's worth a follow at the very least.
Yeah, and he's a guarantee under the same NDAs that he was in as an employee. Nothing has probably changed in regards to what he can and can't say. Probably even more strict now that he doesn't work for the company. So I wouldn't expect any sort of, there's not going to be any wink, anything. But he'll be more active and he'll be around and he'll engage with people. And that's, that's cool.
Maybe he'll finally give us Mother 3.
The one regret is we never got Mother 3 before he stepped down. But
yeah, the meme will be endless if it ever does come out. They'll be like, it was Reggie's fault all along.
Right?
Reggie did this.
Dude, that would be so cool if, like, when they go to release Mother 3, if they go to release Mother 3, that they do a bit about that. It's like Reggie is the villain.
They literally have to. There's no way they couldn't. They're very aware. They're exceptionally aware. They know.
But the idea that Reggie is he was the villain, like he orchestrated the whole thing, and like now that he's gone, Doug Bowser finally was able to deliver.
That's 100% what they should do. I see them doing that, but they could also not do that. Fun fact, the anniversary for Mother 3's release in Japan was just over the weekend.
Oh, what?
420, baby.
13 years?
Yeah, 13 years.
Wow.
06 for the Game Boy Advance when the DS came out 2 years before.
That's so funny.
I read a 5 page like article basically detailing the traumatic rise and fall of hope for Mother 3 in the West, starting from 1996 until 2018.
Dude, that game went through, I mean, it was developed for the 64, the GameCube, and then finally the Game Boy Advance. Just development hell.
Never confirmed for me development in the GameCube, but it was being in development for the 64 disk drive, and then the 64, and then the Game Boy Advance after a few years of kind of quiet, after officially canceling it in 2001 or whatever they did that, 2001. Just a nightmare trajectory.
I think that game is... I never finished it, but I did complete Earthbound, and I think Mother 3 is probably better than Earthbound.
Mechanically, yeah. They definitely smoothed off a lot of edges and added some really interesting mechanics with like the tempo system for getting combo hits. I thought that was really cool. And they just, I don't know, the character designs and the storylines, that was always so key to those games in particular. I had a lot of heart.
Yeah, a lot of character. A lot of character.
And if they put it out, I am bound by oath to buy it. Even though I've played it and beat it, I'll buy it and play it and beat it again. Fuck it. It's only like 20 hours.
Right. That's so funny. We've gone around this carousel of like, why do they need to release it? Like, the people who want to play it can play it. You know, there's no point in doing an official translation. They're just going to neuter it.
It is the most high-profile game that's only been released in Japan that people are actively seeking to get released elsewhere. What other game can you think of that's like, why haven't they translated and released it? What's the highest profile game after that is what, Seiken Densetsu 3? That doesn't even have an English title? Like, what the fuck? No one cares.
I mean, that's a good point. It's the people are clamoring for it. There's no reason not to do it, unless it is just like a PC thing. You know, it's the game's got some inappropriate references and some mature themes and
very mature themes. I mean, there's very high profile scenes of like animal abuse and what could be considered like transphobic imagery, and that'd be very rough to be able to get around that.
Things are different in Japan, man. That culture and in the way things are translated, it's like, oh, that's not meant to be X, Y, or Z. It's actually this. But good luck trying to explain that or delineate that into a concise translation that, you know, I understand it's a mess, but Nintendo's dealt with worse.
I mean, they haven't dealt with worse in a better way, though.
That's true. Most companies don't deal with those.
That's why they just haven't dealt with it. So that might be part of the reason why. Who knows? We never know.
Yeah. Swinging the opposite way here from one of our most beloved things in the world, Nintendo, to Assassin's Creed. The opposite of that spectrum. To be fair, Assassin's Creed's cool, man. They've done a lot of great things and somehow still remaining relevant. But they were in the news this week. You know, Notre Dame went up in flames. One of the spires toppled. And amongst the PR, you know, the sort of whirlwind surrounding the people donating money and the conspiracy speculations and whatever, Ubisoft, whatever the fucking company's name is, decided to let people download Assassin's Creed Unity for free, and they're donating to the reconstruction of Notre Dame.
Yeah, something like €500,000, I believe it was.
That's a lot of currency.
They got it.
I don't know how that translates to money I spend, but it's a lot of currency.
I think euros are like 1.5 times more valuable than dollars, so probably like $700,000 probably around there. If I'm even accurate with the 500,000 euros thing, that's just what I remember seeing. But like you said, there's been a lot of people donating a lot of money to get this old building rebuilt or whatever.
But what's interesting about this whole thing is that obviously, so in the game that they have done is close to a 1-to-1 recreation of Notre Dame within the game. And so this just sparked something in my mind. It was very interesting to me. And it got me thinking of other games that have done this with other monuments and other like cities. Like Spider-Man just did this insanely detailed representation of New York.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to be like interpretation based on the confines of actual game design. But if you're just doing like a singular building, that makes it a little bit easier to justify being wholly accurate. Because you don't want to actually play a 1-to-1 recreation of New York City. That would get very tedious to travel across. But you want to have a good feeling. It's got to feel like it. That's it. But I was actually reading that they couldn't actually legally put they scanned the entirety of Notre Dame Cathedral, the finest measuring tools and lasers and all this crap imaginable. Yeah. But they couldn't actually make it in the game 1-to-1 legally because the building is copyrighted.
Right.
Because that's how architecture works. Because it's considered like, I think it's covered under art law. Like it'd be the same as me copying a JPEG that you made and be like, this is my JPEG.
This is my JPEG.
Like, no, it's not. That cathedral is my JPEG.
Right. But it's close, and it's close enough, but still from a historical perspective, it's like, say Notre Dame did burn down. Assassin's Creed Unity now is the most accurate representation, photo, video, or otherwise, fully 3D and explorable. That's kind of fascinating to think about. And in another 1,000 years, 5,000 years, if we're still here, you think those buildings will be? No.
And it's not necessarily the only or the most accurate representation. I know there was some article that was touting a digital artist in 2003 went and scanned the entirety of the cathedral. And I think they're going to be going off of some of his scans as reference during the rebuilding process.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To make it as accurate to the original structure as possible, or the original structure as of 2003. But I think that's really a really interesting sort of way that we can go about preserving these monuments, because they're made of things, and things erode and decay over time, but having the knowledge of those things might be able to preserve them in a more permanent way, I guess.
Yeah. And also it got me thinking about like VR and applications in that respect. And obviously, people are already doing VR tours and stuff, and that could be a really cool thing in, museums and whatever.
The Google Earth VR thing that you can do.
I haven't seen that.
Which is, it's not like fully VR because you can't like move your head side to side and actually get a different image, but it's like a fishbowl view. You can just like move around everywhere that you would be able to do like street view and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Interesting.
Dude, it seems like a really cool kind of like, it would be like a papercraft kind of representation of the world where it's like very blocky polygons, but then with photographed images being sort of projected on top of them. But I've heard really good things about it, that it's a really cool experience.
I've been editing VR photo and video at work lately, and compiling these virtual tours. So mainly just right now, you go out in the field. We've got an Insta360. It's like this globe with multiple cameras.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it's actually just the 360 video.
Yeah, it's a really high-end little machine, and you just go out and do the thing. And so right now I'm just I'm stitching everything together, right, and guiding this little tour, like putting hot spots. So this door leads you here, and whatever, and just kind of making everything pop a little bit. But it's interesting to see like this is how this technology is going to be used in the future, and we've waxed on that plenty. But yeah, it just sort of got me thinking. This all coincided in the same week, and I'm like, there's some cool applications here for that, and touring these landmarks, and I wonder if that's going to sort of prompt others to do the same for some similar landmarks across the world.
Man, Nintendo just saw into the future when they made that 3DS Guide to the Louvre.
Oh, deep cut, dude.
Remember that thing?
Oh, I never experienced it. I can't imagine how fucking just awful that was.
I mean, I'm sure it was really like a little bit corny, but it would also be really cool. Those guided tours are actually really interesting, entertaining. It's nice to sort of do it at your own pace and just plug in some headphones. So having an AR camera and being able to like hold it up to the Mona Lisa and it can tell you some information about Da Vinci or something, that seems like, why not? And then you just think about in the future, once like resolutions and computing power is stronger and more easily accessible, you just put on a headset and boom, there you are in like one of the most prominent historical art museums in the world. Like,
dude,
that'd be fucking cool, right?
I've said this before, but I can't wait till I can buy courtside tickets to a Trailblazer game and put on my VR headset and have totally seamless, fluid courtside experience live.
They have that, don't they? I don't know if it's in all arenas, but I think they have VR seating.
Yeah,
for NBA games. And I think you can like go to different like shots. You can like be like, oh, I'm going to teleport over to the basketball, like the actual hoop.
Yeah.
And like see people fucking dunk on your face.
So they did that for a Warriors game a couple years ago, and I remember it being really, really rough. Like it's not at a point where they could sell that for a premium and get people to actually invest in that. But the idea is there, and in a couple years, if that's some technology they want to invest in, they could really make this a high end deal and be like, all right, I pay $200 a year for courtside VR experience for all my favorite games. Like, absolutely.
I'd imagine a lot of that has to do with your experience with being poor might have to do with the audio. How was the audio in that?
I don't recall how the audio was, but the picture was jaggy and stitched weird and laggy.
Yeah, 'cause you're streaming it, I guess. I wonder if like a VOD would be better. You like taper in on the quality.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the solution is.
Was it just on like a Google Cardboard, or was it like actually on a real headset?
No, it was. I was literally on my phone and doing this number because I didn't have a headset.
Right.
But
right, yeah. So I mean, you can only do so much. Your bit rate's only so good over Wi-Fi, or
it's true.
heaven forbid if you're just on 4G. Like,
ooh. Yeah, I don't recall, but the idea is really cool. But new technology, Nick, way of the future. You know, looking ahead. PS5, dude. Was it our old pal Mark Cerny came out and did a little interview and gave us a little breakdown on PS5. He was like, listen, it's a coming, but not this year, so fuck off. Like,
we can finally rest easy. Our hopes are still intact that Knack 3 is not dead yet.
Knack 3 is not dead.
Coming to a PS5 near you, probably end of 2020.
Do you think, okay, there's a lot to unpack about this interview.
Yeah, did you actually get a chance to read through and get the breakdowns and like the demonstration that they gave to Wired and all that kind of stuff?
I read a breakdown of what, because they were like, it's going to be this type of processor and it's going to support, they're talking about 8K graphics support. It's going to have an SSD. It's going to be backwards compatible. All the things we care about.
Didn't say 8K graphics support. It just said 8K output, which is different.
Fair.
I think the Switch can do 4K output for video. I think.
Oh, that don't mean anything.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. So people got their panties in a twist all about the 8K output. It's like, that means nothing. That's just a HDMI standard. That's 2.2 or whatever.
Right. Okay. So give me the breakdown here on this, and I'm curious to see what else there is to it, because I thought it was interesting. He never called it the PS5. He said the next PlayStation. So I don't know if they're keeping their options open. It would be weird if they abandoned the number scheme.
They
right?
probably want to keep their options open, but I think they didn't refer to the PS4 as the PS4 until they announced the PS4.
Okay.
They're just being coy.
Yeah.
I don't know what purpose this served. It's not like they were really itching for a marketing like news beat. I don't know why this event happened. I heard some conjecture that Wired may have had a leaked dev kit and had confirmation of like what the specs were, and maybe they approached Sony and was like, hey, we're gonna run this unless you want to actually make it official and give us the exclusive beat, and it'd be like a schmancy way for Wired to be like the ones that got to see the PS5 in action.
That's
kind of
sketchy, dude. That's fucking blackmail, dog.
If it works, it works.
I don't know.
As journalists, they have a responsibility to give their news to the people.
Sure, but blackmailing a company.
That's not blackmail. That's saying, hey, we're gonna do this. If you want to do something before we do that, then that'd be great.
So blackmail.
It's not blackmail.
It's blackmail.
It's not dirt.
I mean, it's taking something a company doesn't want known and extorting them for something that benefits you. It's blackmail. It's extortion. And they got what they wanted, if that's the case.
It benefits Sony just as much because people love to talk about PS5.
Yeah, but it's interesting because they're not at E3 this year. They aren't releasing any first-party games this year, so this is kind of keeping them...
I like how you say that when Days Gone comes out literally this week.
After Days Gone, that's the last of the heavy hitters that they had already announced, and then going into the next quarter, it's dry the rest of the year. And Days Gone, I mean, we don't know how that game's going to do. That's kind of gone through some issues itself.
Big question mark. It's been a long, long time since Sony Ben's put out a game. But I mean, Sony Santa Monica took a long time with God of War. And I don't know. People were more bullish about God of War, but Days Gone it's going to be fine.
Fine's what they want for their only first-party release of the year.
So after Wired gray-mailed Sony, potentially.
Gray-mailed, you fucker.
Like I said, that's purely just conjecture. Nobody even knows why they got this sort of reveal or anything. Mark Cerny showed... So PS5 confirmed to be backwards compatible with PS4 games. We don't know how that's going to be implemented necessarily yet. If your PS Store games will transfer over, or if they're going to pull a Nintendo Wii U and be like, hey, if you want your Wii Virtual Console games, pay us $1 for each one. We'll transfer it. We don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah,
we can't. Never get your hopes too high. Sony could easily be fucky with it. I mean, imagine all those games you bought on PS3 that were indie games that you don't get on PS4 because it's not a PS4 game, but
right.
I digress. So backwards compatibility. He mentioned VR is going to work. He didn't say if there's going to be a next-gen headset. You would imagine there probably is because nobody wants to use a fucking Move wand and use the PSI and get all that crap. That ancient technology that they retrofit onto the PS4 from the PS3, like 2008, you know? And then the biggest thing that they're talking about and showed was Mark Cerny being super excited about this SSD and what's probably an M.2 sort of connection that they're going to be doing with the SSD, where the load times will be significantly reduced. And they showed Spider-Man running on the PS4, and if you do a fast travel, it takes about 15 seconds. And they showed it running on a low-power version of the PS5 or whatever, you know, some unknown thing in a hidden box, Wizard of Oz style. But they run it on that one, and it loads in less than 1 second.
That's insane. That is, I don't want to say game changer. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but that's really big, man. Especially if you're playing Spider-Man on the regular PlayStation, dude, that thing just chonked, bro. That thing, load times every time you fast traveled or every time you went into, you know, the next a mission or a building, it just chugged. So
call that your Twitter time.
I'm pretty sure that's what broke me as a human, as a man. Was, as you know, 19, 20 years old. It's probably when I quit reading heavily for recreation, and my attention span went out the window. It was directly correlates to when I got a smartphone, and then getting in the habit of playing Skyrim, and during all the load times, it was just scroll through Twitter mindlessly, and I fucked up my attention span. And since then, I can't read for pleasure the way I did for 20 years of my life. So thanks to the smartphone and thanks to the load times.
Thanks, Todd Howard.
It
you
broke
motherfucker.
Me. God damn
Chucking
it.
all these cheese wheels. It's not worth it. But yeah, that was like the big thing. Using an SSD, it seems like a really good improvement from the prior hardware.
Then a 5200 RPM fucking hard drive? Yeah, quite the upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, ancient technology at that point. But for a long time, SSDs have not been very cheap, you know, so
Bro.
Who knows how expensive this box is going to be. I mean, good SSDs and like a good M2 and like all that kind of stuff. But apparently the connection is something that's new this year. Like it's not the old way of doing it. It's not the SATA cables or whatever.
Okay. I saw a deal this morning in my inbox, a 1 terabyte M2 drive for $99.
That's nice.
And I was like,
that's good.
That is insane.
I think for my half terabyte, my 500 gig SSD might be 250 actually. I think I paid about that much.
Yeah, that's insane, man. Things are
that's what, like 2 years ago.
Things are plummeting. So, I like what he was saying. Okay, the fact that they are not abandoning the home console market, they are going to keep the status quo going. Obviously, who knows how this branches out when it comes to parallel consoles and power tiers and
iterative and different hard drive sizes and all that.
Right, but
get one that doesn't have a disk drive or all that kind of crap.
Oh, I hope they don't get rid of the disk drive. Keep giving me games in some form, whether it's a cart or a disc.
It's going to be the highest selling one because there's so many people that still don't have good enough internet to go all digital anyway.
Yeah.
But once you see places like GameStop dying off, then you're going to have a lot less of a reason to have a resale market and like to begin with. Like if you have a bunch of hard discs, what are you going to do with those? If you wanted to get money for them, you're going to go to like some pawn shop. You're going to go to Craigslist. You're not going to get dick for that disc.
I just feel like it's like, I don't know. You would still rather buy the physical game because there's always the option of Craigslist, eBay, whatever, than I'm going to buy my games at full retail price digitally and then just be stuck with them.
My main reason, besides being a collector and having that incessant itch of having the thing on the shelf,
right,
is I like to have the ability to lend games to friends too. That's my main reason.
Dude, DRM, dude.
Yeah.
Going Xbox One on your ass.
This is how I share a game. The other thing really that was displaying, well, not displaying because they didn't actually show it, but Mark Cerny mentioned that there's going to be a version of ray tracing, which AMD doesn't have any cards that support that natively yet. So you'd imagine that's going to be in this year's model. NVIDIA just did that last year with their 20 series with the RTX, the ray tracing, the realistic physics-based light models.
Right.
That up to this point were just too compute heavy to be realistically displayed in a real-time manner. but now we've seen some games incorporate that, like Battlefield on PC and Metro. But it's limited in how much better it actually looks because the people developing these games haven't had enough time to optimize for it. But I think it's going to be really cool once you start seeing a mixture of pre-baked lighting with the RTX mode and get some like really nice optimization and really showcase that the abilities of that technology. And I think lighting in general is like what turns a good looking game into a great looking game.
Yeah.
Besides like art direction. Like if you have the art direction and you've got good animations and you've got good lighting, then you've got a good looking game. Like those are like the three biggest things for me personally. And then also using ray tracing for a more realistic spatial audio on like a hardware level, which seems like really cool. Like, I don't know what it's about. He just mentioned it and he said that Sony was lagging behind in audio compared to the Xbox One. Well, he didn't say that, but like people have read into that because the Xbox One actually has like Atmos audio and like all this kind of stuff like built in.
Okay.
And Sony didn't really focus on that this generation. Like they had a really small leap in audio quality between PS3 and PS4, besides just hard drive space and having less compressed audio in general. But using ray tracing to sort of, on a software side, be like, okay, this is the sound file that plays from this water drop hitting over here. But if you're by a rock wall, that's going to reflect and sound differently than if you're standing next to a soft wall or there's foliage in between you and that could really play into it depending on how deep into it the audio designers and the actual game designers get into it. But that seems like only a good thing. Giving more options is always nice. And if you push the hardware, then software designers are like going to play with that. People love to push the abilities of the hardware. That's how you get great,
truly immersive
experiences, these bleeding edge, pushing it to the limit games experiences.
It's funny how we talk about diminishing returns when it comes to graphical fidelity and frame rate's a huge debate. But we're talking about the sound, like the sound isn't immersive enough. Like, dude, half these dudes are playing this thing on their fucking TV without a soundbar or headphones with their fucking baby crying in the next room. Like, what are you talking about sound for? Like, give us fucking decent graphics at a steady frame rate at a high resolution. Like, it's just I don't know, funny.
Sound, I think, is really, really, really cool.
It's very important, yes.
It's the least sexy of the important aspects of a game. Like people talk about the graphics because you can show it in a picture. It's a lot easier to show what the graphics look like. But game feel and audio is also incredibly important. Responsiveness and all that.
Yeah.
And even if you don't have so if you're playing this in headphones, if it's all software side, if you're just playing sounds in each ear, then you can simulate the idea of it being further off. And then your mind is tricked into thinking, oh, that sound happened far away or that sound happened over there. And you're just hearing it in your ears, like just two channels, just stereo channels. You don't need 5.1 to get that sort of faux 3D effect. It's just mind blowing.
It could be cool. It could be cool. But they do that now.
They do.
So looking ahead to launch titles, people keep talking about how, The Last of Us 2 and Kojima's Death Stranding and Horizon 2. None of those are going to be launch games. None of them.
Knack 3, baby.
It's going to be Knack 3. No, consoles don't have launch games like that. It doesn't matter if Death Stranding's been in development for, X amount of years at the point that this new console's released. They don't launch those kind of games with consoles.
Sony doesn't. Nintendo did last time. Breath of the fucking Wild.
Only because that was a Wii U game that they sat on.
They did it for Wii also, Twilight Princess. A GameCube game they sat on.
Yeah, no shit.
Mario 64, Super Mario World, Mario Brothers.
It's a different world, bro. It's a different
Tetris
world. Different time.
Don't forget, Nintendo 3DS launched with
Pilot Wings. 3D. And a submarine game, if I recall. They really hitting all
the niches were filled that day.
Right. That's it for video games today. Boom, we're done. I got to rant about Game of Thrones for a little bit. Let me pull up my notes. Guys, this is the Console Crusade. You got to find us online. All right. You can email us. Feedback at consolecrusade.com. Twitter, console_crusade. We're on the Facebook. Yada, yada, yada. Nick is at Precious Death on Twitter. I am at eJiggle. Find us. Turn this off now if you do not want Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 2, Night of the Seven Kingdoms spoilers. It's happening. I have so much to say about this, Nick, but I need you to kind of guide me point by point here. I do have notes, but...
Yeah, you watched the episode twice. I don't know if I could remember everything. I watched it. I was really tired last night after having Easter dinner with the fam and getting home at like 11 o'clock, and I watched Game of Thrones, and I went to bed. So it's going to be hazy for me. All I know is that I didn't even know that the episode had a title. It didn't have a title on Amazon. It just said episode 69.
Right, nice.
Nice.
It did not have a title initially, and I wonder if that's a... I like the little knowing glance to the girlfriend in the corner back there. Ow! Okay. So, yeah, I found it interesting. I don't know if they were trying to avoid spoilers, so initially they didn't have the episode title. I don't know. Maybe it just hadn't populated yet because...
Yeah, they've kept all the titles buttoned up. I don't even know what the title of the first episode was of the season.
Winterfell?
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Before it was just episode 68.
Yeah. A couple of things about this, Nick. I am overall disappointed again. And not because it was slow or whatever, the way I thought about that first episode, which I thought was just like kind of a wreck, whatever. But
this had some bad character on character interactions.
A lot of bad ones, yes. Like
some of them started out okay and then it just kind of spiraled out of control.
So I'm just going to go through my notes, which I kind of took as I went through on my second watch.
Yeah, chronological.
Not totally, but close enough. So here's the deal about Daenerys, bro. She is awful, short-sighted, quick to anger, no trace of charisma. I don't understand her relationship with Jon. It is so forced.
It seems weird. I think the showrunners don't know whether they want her to be someone you cheer for or someone you want to fail. And that's like, it's hard to be a good bad character. Like they did that really, really well with Jaime for like the majority of the series.
Sure.
But they have not been able to nail that with Daenerys. Like they want her to be like this innocent girl who's somehow like setting people on fire. And do you forgive her for that? Is she like, are you okay with her? Do her and Jon Snow have any chemistry at all?
None.
What's going on with that?
Yep.
And I don't know. I don't really like what they've done with her in general. And then the scene with her and Sansa was like so bad. It felt like really try hard. I'm really glad that they ended it with Sansa being like getting real with her. Like that was probably the first earned moment I think that Sansa had as being like being competent, I guess.
Well, it's funny. I feel the opposite in the sense that so first to the first point here. I got into it with some guys at work today and I said Daenerys is Cersei Lannister. And hear me out on this. She's not as cruel.
Yeah, she's not as self-serving either.
But her whole point, and she said it to Sansa, I've known one goal. My goal is the Iron Throne, and she has shown that she'll do anything with complete disregard for other people to get that thing.
That's a really new goal for her because she spent 7 seasons hanging out in Essos.
But her whole goal was to, the guys at work trying to make a case that like, well, she's the freer of slaves. She's trying to, like, no, her only goal in going to those cities was to get an army that she could go kill people with.
Yeah, once she got the Unsullied, she started hanging out for like 3 more seasons, just doing nothing.
To go free more slaves.
Not more warriors though, just slaves, just sex workers and like people to do pottery and build buildings. Like those aren't people that are going to fight your war. She didn't gain a single soldier after she got the Unsullied. Except for like the Khalasar. That was the one time she actually added more troops was when she got taken by some Dothraki and then just burned down their house and then suddenly she became their leader again.
So silly. I think she's closer to Cersei than Jon, or she's and it even showed in the end there when Jon revealed his lineage.
It'd be better if she was more like Cersei, but she's like they rapidly vacillate between these two ideals and they don't. It would be more interesting if she seemed more capricious in that way, but it seems like poorly written as opposed to this character being confused about whether her way should be the gloved hand or the iron fist, like she should be trying to vacillate between these two extremes, and that's what makes an interesting character, but they're just not nailing it at all, and It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed out, like you brought up the Sansa and Daenerys thing, and I was frustrated with Sansa because I'm like, now is not the time to bring this up. You don't need to introduce this sort of tension before the biggest battle of all time. Like that can wait till you can figure that out if you survive. And it seems weird to do that. It seemed weird that Jon would be like, hey, by the way, fuck you. I'm the rightful king. Though he didn't go about it like that. But it's like, dude, whoa. Why? This is not the time for that.
Dude, it's TV. You need that dramatic tension. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the time you have to have some suspension of disbelief of like, yeah, no shit, this is never the right time. And yeah, no shit, you shouldn't chop off Ned Stark's head. And yeah, no shit, you shouldn't, a lot of things shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
That happens in real life too. Like people fuck up and do the wrong thing. And I don't know. But you're right. Like as soon as they show Jon in the crypt and you see White, and I'm like, oh God, he's going to tell Daenerys and it's going to be that's bad timing. But like, that's fine from a viewer's point of view. It's like watching a horror movie and be like, don't open the door. Like, you have that sort of, that commentary going on in your head. So that was fine. That was like a fine moment. I thought the acting in that scene was actually pretty good. Daenerys is definitely torn apart in that scene, and her trying to be like fake chummy was like well portrayed, I think too. The writing was a little bit bad. Like the actual like words that she was saying was kind of, I don't know, pandery and dumb.
Sure.
But it was fine, but a lot of the scenes were just like, what are they trying to do here? What was the point with Arya and Gendry? Like that was really sudden and weird.
I defended that today because to me it really lined up with, I mean, it showed a lot about both characters, but it really lined up with Arya where she's like, my life was taken from me. My family was killed and I was abducted and I went through all this stuff. And it's like she said it. She's like, I'm not going to spend my last night alive with you
miserable shits.
You miserable shits. Yeah. And she's like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to die. I want to fuck, dude. Like she's, I think it lined up with what we've seen from her. Kind of just, she's out for number one. And she's like, Gendry, we have a history and I want to fuck. And then it showed, I like they later they showed, Gendry is like, I fucked. And he was passed out and she was sitting there awake, sort of like stewing in her discontent. And, I was like, I like that. It's human and it lines up with her character.
I like the afterwards scene. I like that whole little montage when they have Pod singing. I thought that song was really cool. It's a good reference to the books. The Jenny of Old Stones and that whole story is awesome. And having the little character moments between Sansa and Theon and Gendry and Arya and like all that kind of stuff. It's like that was a good montage way to end the episode. But just the execution of Arya like seducing Gendry and being all like gung ho about it. It seemed like really conflicting with what they're trying to establish with the character versus who she is as a person, like who she's become by being Cat of the Canals and like doing the whole Faceless Man training where she's been like a cold-hearted bitch like for the past 3 seasons and somehow surviving knives to the stomach and falling into a canal or whatever. A whole other thing, but it seemed like a really weird, it seemed sudden and it seemed like it could have been pulled off better if she went at it as like hey, I'm young and this is my first time and I'm not going to throw you down and be all like sexy, like out of nowhere. Like this character's never been sexy.
I didn't take it as sexy. I took it as like, do what I say because this is what I want. And I didn't take it wasn't like this like lovey-dovey moment. She was still a bitch through the whole thing. She's like, how many people have you fucked? Like it matched her character.
It did, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, I was fine with like the whole interrogation scene leading up to it, but then she got like really aggressive and she like her being the one kissing him and like taking his like stripping his shirt off and be like, you take your pants off. I'm not the red woman. Like whatever. Like, I don't know. It seemed a little bit too quippy and it kind of detracted from the scene for me a little bit.
I do have to say Theon, I'm frustrated with who they've decided they want to try and make these empathetic characters. Like, here's the thing about Theon, man. It really frustrated me about the reunion is Theon has fucked every person he's ever met, including his sister last season. You have fucked up and fucked everybody. You were the reason that Sansa's family is dead. You're the reason that they lost the war and that they're in the position they're in.
He's not the reason Sansa's family is dead.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if he hadn't done what he did and Robb didn't have to break up the army to go deal with the fucking Ironborn fucking shit up for him, all thanks to Theon.
You know that Roose Bolton would have turned on Robb eventually.
We don't know that because a lot of that, think about it, a lot of like Catelyn deciding to release Jaime was because tensions were so high and things had gotten so bad. She took that upon herself. Roose Bolton his men only happened to run into to Brienne and Jaime. Like, it was all this confluence of events that would have never been kickstarted had Robb still been winning battles, and Theon was the initial catalyst that led to him faltering in that war. And so I know there's an extrapolation that has to happen there, but for Sansa to welcome him back, like, dude, he got your fucking mom and brother killed. Like, I just fuck Theon.
It's a different level of involvement of like the cascading events that led from him taking Winterfell and Bran and Rickon running away and him being captured by Ramsay. Like, that's a level beyond him immediately saving her from being raped by Ramsay Snow a bunch of times, or like helping her escape
Ramsay
from that.
Bolton, the rightful heir to the Bolton Empire. Okay,
him and a few good men with their shirts off with dogs.
Yeah. So I just thought that wasn't very earned, and I'm like, Sansa, your last night alive, you're gonna spend it with Theon. That doesn't track with your character at all. Like, you guys are gonna sit there eating soup together with this fucking weirdo. I just doesn't track for me.
Well, who else does she have to hang out with?
I don't know. Her whole fucking family.
Arya's busy getting her bone on.
Was that all
John's
contemporary?
hanging out in a crypt.
I don't
know.
I don't know.
She could hang out with the miserable shits hanging out by a fire, telling stories about sucking on giant tits.
So that moment, okay, I gotta say, speaking of Tormund, he's been one of my favorite ancillary characters for a while now. I like the trajectory. I like how he's kind of come along and become one of the brothers, you know.
He's been very singular in his character and in what he adds to the dynamic.
Yes.
He hasn't been like flanderized too much. This was like leaning towards that a little bit, but I think it was just because it was such a harsh contrast between everybody else having all these very serious moments. Like, even the moment of, like, it was very ancillary, but even the moment of Davos serving the soup to all these soldiers, and the little girl comes up and Gilly comes by and tells the little girl that she can't like fight the war, she has to defend the crypts, and like that was like a touching moment. You see Davos being like, he misses Shireen, and he misses like the fatherly impact that he has with these kids, and like establishing him as a person. And then you get fucking Tormund Giantsbane asking Jaime Kingkiller if he's ever killed a giant, or, you know, all this little moment that's a very, very stark contrast.
So I do have to say, nice. I did have to say that the Davos moment with the soup is one of my few genuine, like, hey, this totally tracked for the character. It touched me. Didn't seem, forced or ham-fisted. But Tormund, back to my point about being one of my favorite ancillary characters in the show, he ruined two of the only other genuinely like emotional moments for me where I thought like I was about to get emotional. And it was when Ed and Jon meet up and Tormund comes over for a fucking slapstick tackling him. And I'm like, dude, really? Like, that was this is the last dude alive from the Night's Watch, and I just, really, Tormund. And then later at the fire, I like how they all started coming together. Okay. And it's like, this is going to be this, like, this is it, guys, kind of thing. And that was ruined for a few reasons. But most of all, it was Tormund being like, oh yeah, well, I fucking suckle the giant's teeth. And then he chugs the fucking milk. And I'm like, whoa, Will Ferrell, what the fuck is this?
But it tracked for the character, and it shows that all these other characters are like having this contemplative night of like, oh, this could be our last night alive, and this is just another night for Tormund, basically. And I think that's fine. And I think they leaned out a little bit too hard with the giant boob story, but at the same time, I think it was worth it to an extent. And I think that he didn't take away from the true moment, which was Jaime knighting Brienne, which literally was like, I think that was really earned. And I think Brienne is like one of the few characters in like the show that's like wholly a good person and well represented by the actress, and like the writing is all good. She may be doing dumb things, but she's doing them for a good reason, and that the motivation is the true, like that's what drives the story, is character motivation. And she has the best motivation and the best execution on that motivation.
I agree to a point about, yeah, she may be doing dumb things, but she's doing it for a good reason. She is loyal to a fault, and she's honorable to a fault.
And so was Ned Stark, and we loved that guy.
Well, Ned Stark was legit charismatic, and you really agreed with everything he was doing, even though he was honorable to a fault. But I never got the Jaime Brienne thing. I just didn't understand it, because it was like, this guy is a literal fucking, he is a scumbag murderer, and he didn't really do anything to redeem himself other than reveal that, yeah, I killed the guy because he was going to kill a bunch of innocent people. well, yeah, you also fucking threw a kid from a balcony and you killed your own cousin, and you're a fucking scumbag. And she's like in love with the guy. So it didn't feel earned to me. Her getting knighted, that's great. She deserves it. She has been great. But her and Jamie dynamic doesn't make sense to me. And I know that he saved her.
They didn't lean on that. They only talked about that in the post show, and I think that ruined the moment for me more than Tormund talking about boobs.
Sure,
ruined the moment. I don't need to hear D&D talk about how much they think that Brienne and Jamie are in love.
Yeah,
like they can fuck off with that.
That's stupid.
I want their love to be shown, not talked about by these two weird beard men.
You know what ruined the fucking moment though? The Sir Brienne of Tarth! You guys really fucking slow clap? Like, hey, guys, this is an emotional moment. You need to feel emotion. All right, we're going to clap now. Do you feel the emotion yet? Dude, that was fucking awful.
Wasn't that just Tormund slow clapping because he didn't understand what to do?
No, he clapped, but then everyone started clapping. It was just like, I feel like they've really strayed from what made this show. Like, that is not what happens on Game of Thrones. You don't slow clap during an emotional moment. That was awful. It took me right out. I just couldn't believe they did it to me.
No, I agree. It was funny. It was funny.
It was fucking whatever. So, but it's cool. Brienne's great.
And her smile with the tears in her eyes as she turned away. Like, that was a good
on Gwendolyn Christie.
Good shot. Good acting.
Can I rant about Tyrion for a moment?
Sure. Rant away.
I did express some concern about his writing in the 7th season, and I was worried about what they're going to do with him in this season. The 2nd episode has really confirmed that the writers don't understand him well and aren't clever enough to continue writing for him the way George Martin did. I mean, his writing has plummeted. Everything about his character. He had one good line in this show, but everything else.
Actually, I actually disagree with you. I think this episode was a lot better showcase of Tyrion than the prior episode, especially his interaction with Jamie and them being like, we've known each other our entire lives and we can be real with each other for a little bit and we can talk about the past and we can say, we can cut to the core with each other in these moments. And we see Tyrion being like, I totally fucked up and I really shouldn't have trusted my sister. That was a dumb thing. But I thought that maybe, just maybe, her being pregnant could be like the thing that makes her like just listen to reason for fucking once,
Yeah.
And it's him trying to see the good, not even the good, just the logical in someone he knows is ruthless and an asshole, but also self-serving enough that it might work out right. And just him having that defense with Jamie in the beginning, I thought that was like a really good moment with Tyrion. And even like, I don't understand, like, what is Jorah Mormont's like angle at this point? Because he came to Tyrion's defense to Daenerys being like, he's a genius and he owns up to his mistakes. And that's like a hard thing for, like, everyone has mistakes. Like, he pointed out like, yeah, I fucked up. You fucked up to Dany, and like him saying, and then it was very clearly his idea for Daenerys to go talk to Sansa and try to patch that up, because he knows that you need the North, and he's a northerner, so he knows that like a Southerner is not going to just waltz in and be like accepted as their queen, especially after all the shit they've gone through with the royalty in general.
Jorah's angle is he's a good ass dude who wants to A, survive, and B, he cares about his people.
It's just really weird because he was such a shitheel for like so long, and what changed? Like, he got some like weird disease that they fixed in an episode. Like,
I have to disagree with you here because you haven't watched the show. He's a vastly different character than the book Jorah. Vastly different.
Because it seemed like he was just like, he wanted to fuck this teenager, and then he couldn't fuck the teenager, so he got kicked out, and he was a spy for Robert Baratheon. He got shipped over to Essos because he didn't take the black, because he was caught selling slaves to slavers in the East, and that's why he got exiled.
He was selling criminals, not innocent people,
to be slaves.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't matter. The end result is the same.
Yeah, but in the show, he is very briefly reporting on Daenerys, and then quickly comes to his senses and says, hey, this might actually be what's best for the kingdom. But he never once is shown to want to fuck Daenerys, ever. Like, it's implied that, like, he really loves her, he really cares about her, and he wants to protect her, but it's never in a creepy way. Jorah is never portrayed the way, in the book, he's very much a creep. He's very much a sort of plotting, that's a plotting with two D's, not two T's. From my understanding of the characterization in the book. But in the show, he owns up for his mistakes, and he really wants what's best for the people he cares about. And I really like Jorah. In my notes, actually, I say I really like Jorah. What a bummer it'll be when he dies, because you know he's fucking dead.
But yeah, he just got a cool sword.
Yeah.
He has to die.
Dude, so, okay, I have so many things. I gotta go back to the Tyrion thing, but just the sword thing real quick. Fucking Sam comes up to him and he's like, I know you killed my family, but please take this sword. And then Jorah's like, great, I'll wield it in my own father's honor. And it's like, that's weird. And then Sam's like, bye. By the way, I hope we win.
Yeah, I made that same comment. Like, I know you just killed my dad and my brother, but here's their sword.
Like, it's awful. Like, that was so silly to me. But so I didn't mean to be like an asshole when I was like, you haven't watched the show. Jorah is not the way he's portrayed in the book.
Okay, and that's a fair thing to say, especially since I haven't seen all the seasons. But like, even from the first 2 seasons that I saw in full, and then the last 3 that I've seen in full, they haven't really portrayed him as like a fully honorable person. He's just sort of been like sycophantic and like he's always seeking Dany's approval, but like not doing well enough for her, I guess. So it's like, it's not shown, his character hasn't been like shown to be, I don't know, like what's his goal? They haven't really shown that very well enough.
I mean, his goal literally is to just serve Daenerys. He believes that she is going to be a good
queen. What a
queen.
pointless character then.
I mean, to a degree. The thing with Tyrion that bugged me, he did have a line that I thought was really great.
I liked his line when him and Jaime were walking toward the rampart, but they weren't there yet, where they're talking about how Cersei fooled them or something. Like, he said something about Cersei always using the truth to fool others, and then Tyrion said something to Jaime that was like, you were never fooled by Cersei, though. You loved her despite like the awful person that she was.
You always knew she was, but you loved her anyway. That was a good line. And then when they're around the hearth and they're warming up by the fire, and this group starts growing,
and then pouring the big cup for Pod, that's like a little character moment. That's good.
That was a nice moment. I like that. And Pod's face, getting away with
Pod
this.
the rod, dude.
Dude, Pod the rod. Turns out he actually just sang to those chicks, to the halls. And that was it. Dude, he had a great voice. It was a nice little bit. So the thing about Tyrion that bugged me in this episode, okay? 2 things. One on the micro and one in the macro. The big picture thing is that they spent a whole season showing that like he can fuck up. And he did fuck up, and he's suffering the consequences for that. But I argue that is that is out of character, because like Sansa said in the last episode, I used to think you were always the smartest character in the room. His whole character is that he is the smartest character in the room, but he gets shit on anyway. Everything that's ever happened to him, he's been right, but he still gets shit on. And I'm okay to show that he's fallible, but it's been like a lot of it didn't make sense. It was just like,
I lost you.
Uh-oh.
Just so you know.
Uh-oh.
We're back.
Oh, we're back. All right. That was a scary moment. We thought that was the end.
Oh no.
And so it's like, I like, again, showing that maybe he's fallible, that's okay, but it seemed out of character. A lot of the things, at least with the Cersei thing, was like, okay.
I don't know how out of character it is. I think Tyrion's biggest flaw is that he thinks he's the smartest person in the room at all times.
He is,
and
though.
that was the biggest. No, he is not. The whole arc with Shay, are you kidding me? Where he just did everything to fuck himself out of his hand. Like, everything. And then Tywin swoops in, fucks his girl, gets him thrown in prison. I mean, Tyrion gets the last laugh by shooting his dad on the shitter, but what a hell of a victory that is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he gets sent off to Essos and somehow tricks a dragon queen into making him her hand. Like, he really screwed the pooch left to right in this the entire time he was in King's Landing. So I think this is perfectly in line with his character to think that he's got it figured out, but to be totally wrong about it. And yeah, it's a sting to have Sansa be the one to deliver that message to the viewers, but like, it was totally true.
I don't know,
that's
man.
Like that's in line with Tyrion.
I'm still not convinced, because I'm trying to think of one time he was shown to not be the one in the right. Like, yeah, he did a lot of dumb shit, but whenever he was like, this is the way things are and this is how they need to be.
I think that's more of a fault of them making him too infallible in the past. Like, they shouldn't have propped him up to be this paragon of truthiness, only to have him have this major fuck up at the 11th hour. Like, yeah, that's totally out of character if you only see him as being always right. But like, I think of him more in the context of the books and him being an idiot and like a whoremonger and this alcoholic that has a lot of good ideas and sees a lot of truth and speaks to truth, but isn't always perfectly accurate in his assessment of reality sometimes.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I feel like they went 0 to 60 or 60 to 0 rather, where they're really portraying him to sort of be a dimwit, and it just frustrated me how that switch was flipped, and he doesn't seem like himself. But a couple of things that frustrated me, his lines felt really forced. A couple of things, like, so first off, on 4 different occasions, he was like, "We're gonna die, haha! Remember that, guys?" And I'm like, all right. The first time he's like, "Can you imagine?" Well, first off, he says, "I wish Dad were here." Jamie should have freaked out. Dude, there should be more tension. That is one place where I think tension would be warranted at the final hour. Is him being like, "I wish Dad were here," and Jamie's like, "What the fuck, asshole?" You know, like, are you serious?
Open up that wound again.
I mean, he gave the look, and then he's like, "Yeah, we're all that time fighting the Starks, and here we are. We're gonna die in Winterfell." Like, cool. That's all you need to say. But then over and over, he kept being like, "Hey guys, we're just here to warm up and, and contemplate your imminent doom." Like, it was so over the top. I just didn't like it.
I didn't notice that at all because I think Tyrion is the consummate fatalist. Like, in all cases, he's like, "Oh, we're fucked."
Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. And
you're talking about at the very end, he's like, "Well, when we get out of this," he's like, "Oh, I think we might make it." Like, he actually laughs about it. Everyone's like, "No, we're not."
Yeah.
So I don't know. Everyone's got these weird moods about it. Can we talk that Tyrion is the only person who's actually sought out Bran to be like, "Hey, so tell me about what happened. What's going on with you?" No one else gives a shit. No one fucking cares. Sansa gives him a hug and he says a weird thing. And then Sansa's like, "Okay, well, bye. Yeah, I looked beautiful the night I got raped. That's a weird thing for you to fucking say."
Really
things
weird.
We do for love. Jamie just,
that was a nice moment. I was like, "Oh, damn, Jamie." But it was out of character for Bran, because Bran is very much like, "I'm not Bran, I'm the three-eyed raven, and I don't care what happened to me." But he's dropping fucking bombs in the courtroom, being like, "The things we do for love, bitch." Like, I
don't think it was like a tea drinking, hot take slinging Bran Stark, mocking Jamie. I think it was just like reminding him, "Hey, I have power over you." And I don't know. He also just says weird things. Like, he just sort of repeats what he sees and what he knows and what he remembers. And his memory at this point is not the memory of a person, but the memory of someone who's seen everything that these weird trees have seen. So, like, he's disconnected in a way that he's probably just saying things that he's making cognitive connections with in general. I don't know. It's a weird thing, and it's fine. It serves a purpose of being like dramatic tension.
Yeah,
but it didn't seem like weirdly out of character or anything. But I think it talks to Tyrion recognizing and seeking knowledge. Like, that's part of his character too. Is like, he loves reading, he loves like learning things and knowing things, and it makes sense for him to seek out Bran and like actually pull up a chair and sit and listen when no one else has had the time or the inclination to. Also, that's hella foreshadowing. You fucking kidding me? That's hella foreshadowing. He's gonna know that Jon is Aegon.
Sure.
Inevitably.
Bran has been the most underserved character. His arc was totally out there, totally random, still imperative to the plot, but they didn't do enough to bring that in and make us care and make us really understand what's really happening with the guy. And then he just shows up and is now being used as a convenient little plot device when he needs to be. They're with the war room and they're talking about the plan, and he's like, "The Night King knows where I'm at all times. He marked me." And everyone's like, "Okay, well, we'll keep you by the trees." Like, no one was like, "What the fuck? What do you mean he marked you? You guys hung out in a dream? He tried to kill you? Oh, that's where Hodor went."
Thanks for the heads up now.
Yeah.
You got a homing missile pointed right at you.
Yeah.
We've just been housing you.
Yep. Dude, we're definitely getting a zombie Hodor, right?
Oh, yeah, probably.
We're
and
definitely...
zombie giants. Speaking of zombie giants and CGI budget in general,
yeah.
we got a single scene where they had a shot with a ghost in the background. Great.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I mean, people were like, "Where's he been?" It's like, he's been in Castle Black. Why didn't y'all remember that? Like, after the whole drama.
No, he was at Winterfell.
That's what I meant. He was at Castle Black, and he came back down to Winterfell with Jon, and he just stayed there.
And they've been at Winterfell for like ever now.
Yeah, it's been a while, but he's been there. But like, what purpose? What would he have served in the story? Like, he's just there. He's hanging out. He's a fucking dog.
I don't know. What purpose does it serve for anything to be anywhere? I want to see the fucking dog.
Yeah, fair.
He's the only direwolf left. I mean, besides Nymeria that's running off in the woods. But like, come on.
Yeah.
Shaggy Dog down, Grey Wind is down, Summer's down. Fucking Lady got killed in the first season.
Oh.
Like, they're all done for, dude.
I didn't do enough, building into the direwolf thing. It was so sudden. It was like one for each of the Stark children, and then
Yeah, it seems like George Martin was like, yeah, this is a good idea. And then like, no, never mind.
never mind. So
Except for Bran, who can warg into people and make Hodor go crazy back in the past.
everyone in the crypts are gonna die in the next episode, right? They lean a little too hard into the crypts are safe. The crypts, that's where you'll be okay. Guard the crypts. Wink, wink, because they don't need to be guarded. Bro, you literally have a bunch of dudes who can raise the dead, and you're putting all the most vulnerable people into a literal fucking, like, everybody, come hide in the, graveyard underneath the city.
There might be a fight scene down there, but I don't think they're going to all die. I mean, you've got just the Stark family line down there. And are they interred? Like, are their bones just hanging out in the open? Can they raise a fully decrepit, dried up skeleton? No, I think they need like musculature and ligaments. We might get a zombie
Magic.
Ned. Ooh, that'd be cool.
Magic, bro.
That's just the only undead Ned.
That would be really weird, dude. People think that we might get the Lady Stoneheart.
No, they didn't show that. They didn't show Thoros bringing her back.
No, but just I wonder if her remains are. I wonder if she made it back.
She
to
got
Winterfell.
thrown in the I don't know. They showed where her body went in the show, but in the books, after they slit her throat, they threw her in the river. They're
Yeah.
at River Run or
Right.
the twins. So that's where Thoros found her and brought her back. I mean, they could do something with like Melisandre, but she's off in Essos now. She has to come back to Westeros eventually this season because she had that very ominous little scene with Varys where she said, you and I are both going to die in Westeros.
Yep.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Fucking, are they going to do that in episode 3? What point does that serve?
Yep.
I think we might see some like familiar faces be brought back as whites, but like only in like a passing montage scene. I don't know if we're going to actually get like a 1-2 shot between like the realization on Jon's face that that's Ygritte. Like,
Sure.
maybe, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They also burned all the dead after that fight, didn't they?
That's true. No, we're gonna get Hodor. I feel like, and that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But
Maybe Benjen.
Benjen can't be turned. They'll
Why
just
not?
be dead because the children of the forest saved him, and he was half turned. I don't think he can be. I think they just.
Was that established? I don't even remember that as being established.
Yeah,
that was a long time
that's
ago.
how they. Because he was essentially dead when he saved Jon. He's already dead.
Yeah, because he's I think they combined his character with Cold Hands from the book, or if they just never established that Cold Hands is Benjen in the show, or the other way around. But I don't know. I don't know. That's all a blur to me.
Overall, I feel like two things here. One is that I think it being disservice by watching weekly, because my expectations are here. I don't really know what I want. I just want something satisfying, and I haven't gotten it. And so now I'm at a point where I'm like, 2 episodes have gone by and nothing has happened, and now you only have 4 episodes left to tell this fucking story that we want all these things to wrap up, and all you've done is set more shit up. You haven't closed any fucking loops, and you're just gonna kill a bunch of people next episode. So I'm really frustrated with that. But then B, I just really want to enjoy these character interactions. Like, why didn't I enjoy it as much as I wanted to? Because this really is the last you're gonna see of a lot of these characters ever together. And that was the whole point of this episode, was this is the last night together, and everything's gonna change next week. And enjoy them while they're here. And I'm just irritated.
Well, I think next episode is going to be very satisfying to watch because it's the same director that did Battle of the Bastards.
Oh yeah.
So for a fact there's going to be some good-ass battle sequences.
And Hardhome.
And Hardhome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be pumping that shit up to 11, playing it hella loud, getting real into it next week. Going to be stoked. After that, I can't speak to the quality of how they actually wrap up the series. I don't know. I don't have high expectations. I just want to see where they take it. And I guess I didn't have the same experience as you because I didn't really, when I went back and watched season 1 and 2, I didn't binge it. I kind of watched them consecutively, not hella rapidly, not over like the span of 2 weekends, but it was like over a month I watched those seasons. But then the last 3 seasons I've been watching week to week, and I like that way of taking it all in. And it's really nice because obviously you get the water cooler moments, you get the memes, you get the chats. It's like You know, it's almost like weekly television was successful for forever for a reason.
Right? Yeah, I do. That's the one redeeming quality, so far for me is every Monday morning we get back to work, we start yelling about it. But I want to go in and just say, wow, I can't believe they did that. And I never expected something could be so satisfying. I don't want to go in and
you
say,
missed 7 years of that already.
I know. I feel like a real
You got that
chucklehead.
with Breaking Bad for like a single season. Weren't you like retroactively catching up with that too?
Yeah, I think I watched the season 5, 1 and 2 contemporarily with as they aired, but I got into that show pretty late. It's 2012 when I got into that show. So such is life, Nick.
This is much lower in like the echelon of high quality dramatic TV versus Breaking Bad. This is more of like a really cool soap opera with dragons and swords and stuff.
Sure.
And you kind of have to have that expectation going into it. It's like, oh, you're here to watch people get betrayed and watch them fuck and watch them fight and say some quips and have dramatic 1-2 shots where it's like, oh,
right.
Oh, we're looking at each other and really acting with our eyes.
Sure. Breaking Bad, though, that's the golden standard for how you end a show. You wrap up all the characters. Everyone kind of gets the ending they deserve.
You have some B-plot Nazis come in at the 11th hour.
Well, yeah.
Just to show that, nothing really mattered to begin with. Walter White got shot down with his weird Gatling gun trunk car.
It's what he deserved. And Jesse was freed, and he deserved that.
Can't wait till the Breaking Bad movie comes out. Finally.
Oh, God.
Just what we need.
My phone, my laptop's on 3% battery, so we're gonna wrap this up. Next week, I will say I'm a little perturbed. 2 episodes in, I feel like if this were a 10-episode season, these first 2 episodes are a little more forgivable for me. I have issues with some of the writing, but I'm like, okay,
we'll have to wait till it's all said and done to see how everything shakes out in the long term.
That's true. But I'm like, y'all did a 6-episode season so you could take your budget and do this battle. I don't want more battle. I want, you know what I mean?
You need one more battle, though.
One more. But it doesn't need to be the biggest battle ever in the history of television or film. It doesn't need to be that.
Do smaller battles. See, here's the thing. The Hound is going to survive this fight, and it's going to be a Hound versus the Mountain.
The Clegane Bowl! Sunday! It's going down.
I'm going to scalp some tickets on that shit, dude.
The Clegane Bowl doesn't hold as much of a place in my heart. Not as much weight now that Sander, but the Mountain, whatever the fuck his name is real fucking dead. He's not the Mountain anymore.
And they haven't shown him to be like a character really,
exactly
for the past like 4 seasons, so it doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah.
For the Hound's sake, for him, Yeah. Let's do it for Sander.
What one of my notes was? Let me verbatim here, just so I don't want to fuck this up here. Boop, 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 boop. Nice. I said the Hound is still the man. Shouts out to my emo boy. Just like
this cool little side swoop hair.
Dude, just hanging out, getting drunk on the top of the castle by himself. Miserable old shit.
And then Beric Dondarrion rolls in like a weird smiling guy looking like a dollar store Ewan McGregor.
Right? Oh, that's funny. Well, Nick, this has been the Constant Crusade. We think we talked more Game of Thrones than we did video games. We're gonna do it every week.
Video Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Bazinga. Go Blazers.